Welcome to the Jeff Knows Inc. Entrepreneurial Podcast with your host, Jeff Lopes. Jeff has over 2 decades experience as a serial entrepreneur, building brands like Kimura from his home basement to a multi-million-dollar global brand that has sold over 250,000 pairs of boxing gloves. Jeff's here to educate, guide, and drive you on the process of bringing your ideas and dreams to reality with the inspiring stories from some of the top business minds.
Hey everyone, I got to tell you about a product I've been using lately called Feedback Loop. If you're a project manager, an innovator, or even just a startup guy, whatever it is, like myself, you know it's always a struggle to make your next big idea a big hit. And let's be honest, 85% of new products always fail. And the huge reason why for failure is it's just too hard to validate that product, get a true fit with your customers. And if you're working with old style marketing research, you know it's too slow, too complicated, and way too expensive for a fast moving teams trying to build something great. But what if I were to tell you could test all of your products and your product ideas to real targeted consumers whenever you want before you put all that money and time into new development? This is the main reason why startups and 500 Fortune companies use Feedback Loop. They're looking for the feedback from their targeted customers early and as often as possible. Feedback Loop is hands down the best test before you invest product research platform on the market. You get to create your own tests in minutes and get feedback insights within hours of your exact target audience. And if you go now to go.feedbackloop.com/Jeff, you'll get 3 full tests for free. Yes, that's what I'm saying, 3 full tests for free. So if you want your next product to be a hit, make sure you test before you invest and launch with confidence with Feedback Loop. Welcome to episode 172 of the Jeff Knows Inc. podcast. I'm your host, Jeff Lopes. Super excited to have on today Mike the Cop. We have a great conversation. We talk policing, we talk politics. Sit back, everyone, and enjoy. We are live on the Jeff Knows Inc. podcast. I'm your host, Jeff Lopes. Excited to have on today Mike Edwards. What is up, brother?
Hey, man, I'm just sipping coffee and waiting for spring to kick in full gear.
The whole idea of this episode is try to get Mike across the border back to Canada after this episode, because make him fall in love with Canada again.
I don't know, man. I don't know what papers do I have to show? I don't even know if the border's open. Can I just, for a while it was closed completely, and then it was only for certain commerce was allowed across, and then everybody blocked it for the truckers convoy. I don't know what's going on over there. It's like 10 minutes from here, and I stay away from it. I don't know.
By the time this episode is released, it will be a couple weeks behind, but March 21st, which was yesterday, was our official first day of no masks.
That's crazy. That's crazy to me. It's amazing that the pandemic just disappeared, bro. It's just gone.
There's other
convoys to freedom. So fast. It's weird. I don't know.
I mean, I do believe the coal convoys and all that had a huge pressure on the government and gave a little pressure on them. But I mean, there's more. I guess there's more news now to talk about in the Ukraine, so we could kind of slip it under the rug now and forget about it, right? It's pretty crazy. I mean, I am so happy we don't have to wear masks. Like, I avoid going to places, to malls and stuff, because I have to put on a mask. It just annoys the shit out of me.
I just never wore them.
Yeah, it was mad.
Yeah, it was mandated here all over the place. Nobody said shit to me. Can I swear on your podcast?
Sorry. You could do whatever you want.
My dad just asked me the other day, we traveled, and I totally respect private business. So if a private business says, if you want to come in here, we expect you to do this, right? Like, I wear underwear, and I don't go naked, right? No shirt, no shoes. I get it. You're a private business that says, hey, we want you to have these masks for whatever reason. Like, I just won't patronize you. You know, it's that simple. I totally respect private business rights. Mandates, on the other hand, at the federal level, I have a serious issue with ethically, constitutionally, here in the United States. Anyway, I know Canada's a little bit different.
I wouldn't say it's much different.
So yeah, I was just standing in the airport the other day with no mask. My dad's like, we were traveling together. He's like, you got to wear your mask. I'm like, I ain't wearing no mask. They've never said anything to me for 2 years. I travel all the time. And I'm like, hey, I understand the airline is saying to get on this plane, you have to do this. Okay, cool. Like if I'm going to choose to use your service, I'm going to abide by the service terms. Otherwise, I just won't fly. That's just the way it is, right?
Yeah.
And I respect that. It's stupid, but I respect it. But then, where it's not a private business and it's governed by a federal agency mandating stuff, I just do it. And no one's ever said a word to me. I think it's like when you look like you belong and you have confidence, people just don't want to mess with you.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. You just slide right in there. Yeah. I 1,000% agree with that. I mean, I can't see it going back. I mean, it's as crazy as I didn't think we were going to be talking about this today, but it's crazy as the numbers in the UK and China and whatnot, the numbers are going up again. So man, it better not turn around again here, but I can't see it. I can't see small businesses allowing it.
It's going to be something else. It's 100%. I think what's around the corner is the next version of lockdowns will come surrounded by climate change. And I believe that they will 100%. They're already part of the COVID response in Costa Rica, of all places, was they actually divided up by license plate who could drive on what days.
What?
Yep. They already did it. And they're doing it in Europe right now.
So I didn't hear that. That's pretty crazy.
It's happening. And this is a gas price, right? To combat gas prices, they are limiting who can drive on what days in countries. Wow. And in Costa Rica, it was around COVID to keep the number of people off the roads. And they did it because I know people that live there. So that is going to happen here. 100%. That will be, mark my words, it'll be around climate change. It's going to be an energy crisis, and they will restrict our movement and our freedoms around energy. And then it's going to be if you're a climate denier, if you just like the anti-vaxxers, now you're a climate denier, and they are going to restrict our freedom. And then already in the metaverse, there's social scores. Have you ever seen the show Black Mirror?
Yeah,
dude, that's
pretty scary shit.
That shit's just prophecy. That's all it is. It's the direction. It's the direction that we're headed. And I feel like as humans, if we can imagine it, we can do it. Right? Like I think our imagination, everything that we invent begins in the imagination, right?
Yeah, of course.
And I think that a lot of this stuff perpetuates itself by the imaginations of our minds. And I think that we'll end up where it's like I get banned on Facebook all the time. So, hey, for the next 30 days, you're going to be restricted or you can't do this. Eventually, it's going to be, hey, you can't say that. Your car's shut off for 2 days.
So you're talking about this is you're implying the whole social score.
100%.
See, you hear a lot about it. I mean, Joe Rogan talks a lot about it in China, and something that's evident in China right now. Where's do you do see that trying to imply that here?
1,000,000%. I don't think anymore that it can be labeled a theory. I think there is a full blown play.
That's scary shit.
It is scary shit, but it's the world we live in. Like a lot of people think about, we need to fight for our freedoms. I think freedom is an illusion. I think we've long since lost it if we ever had it. I think there's quite an illusion about who's really in control and how much freedom we think we actually have.
Oh, the last 2 years proved that, especially in Canada, and especially in Canada. I mean, the U.S. I mean, you got your Floridas and you got other states that kind of rebelled a bit. But I mean, in Canada, we were just walking puppets. We're just that it was what it was, and everybody kind of, you couldn't open up your mouth. You're on social media, you open up your mouth, your account's banned. I mean, it just, everything was just, and it's crazy is a lot of the theories and the concepts that people were talking about at the beginning, saying about vaccines, about masks, and everything that they were blocking, have now all come to truth, which is crazy.
Yes.
So when you actually look into the whole social score system of China and how, I mean, you don't pay a bill, and guess what? Even if you have the money, you can't go to the movies now and stuff. The way they control everything, it's crazy. It's absolutely crazy. I mean, you can't get more communist than that. I mean, you're essentially you're being run by that.
Yeah, and that's why I think
where's the timeline? Where's your mindset? Where's the timeline with something like that?
I really think it depends on how much pushback we get, because I don't think that they want violence. I think that those that would seek to want that kind of world as a norm, I don't think that they want to achieve it through violence. I think they're smarter than that, because you try coming by violence, especially in this country, a lot of people are going to die.
Yeah,
because
I agree.
There's a lot of people here. Like, people think the government would have an easy time railroading over us as United States citizens.
Yeah.
Bro, I'm telling you right now, 90% of the veterans in this country who know how to fight and have seen shit that would be on the side of the American citizen, it would not be that easy to take us over by violence. It would not be. So they have to do it through other means. And I think that we've already seen what happens is we become complacent toward freedom because of comfort. And so I feel like as long as people have their Netflix and have their coffee and they're relatively happy, they give up the rest of that to somebody else. And we'll end up in some very difficult times, I think. Timeline wise, it's just going to depend on, those truckers in Canada. I think those truckers in Canada bought the West another few years of time.
I 1,000% agree.
Because what happened here in the United States, coincidence or not, which I don't really believe it too much coincidence. All these mandates. I mean, think about how hard Trudeau is pushing on mandates, refusing to meet with the trucker convoy. He'll meet with BLM, but he won't meet with trucker convoy, which
crazy. Yeah.
Weird, huh?
Yeah.
So we go through this whole process of seeing this unfold, and then literally within 10 days of that sort of like reaching its peak, all of a sudden mandates disappear. State of the Union is calling for unity. Everything's like, we went from our president trying to fire multiple professions, key people in those for not getting vaccinated, right, by the mandate. And I'm not anti-vax, right? Like I'm not even an anti-vaxxer on a personal level. I am anti-mandate, but we went from the White House issuing a statement that says, prepare for a winter of death and destruction, to, hey, can't we all just get along here? There's no more mandates. What changed?
Yeah.
Absolutely nothing, except a bunch of truckers mounted up, drove across the country, got some people's attention and said, oh, hell no. Yeah. And I think that the United States saw this. If Canadians, these nice people drinking syrup and hanging out at Tim Hortons, if these nice people can do this, if enough American citizens get pissed off and they do this, it's gonna be really, really bad. And I think that I think leaders in the West decided, okay, we've pushed this as far as we can push it. And I think that we were on the brink of a lot more violence, and those truckers saved the West in terms of some of that.
In Canada, it was so crazy, Mike. It went from our head doc saying this is going to be an ongoing thing to them trying to stop the truckers within I would say a 48 to 72 hour period. All of a sudden, the same doc was on TV saying, "Hey, we got to learn how to live with this now." It was like overnight.
Yeah,
it was overnight.
Yeah,
and then everything just started. They started setting a schedule, and it was like week. So I'll give you an example. So every time there's a March break, kids go get away, vacations. In the last 2 years after the March break or after Christmas break, they would literally keep the kids home for a week or two because they don't want the getting transmitted into schools and all that. Yep. Or if they did it, all of a sudden now March break ends, and the first day after March break, no masks in school. So it was like overnight they just changed everything.
Yeah.
So it was just like a free for all. Let's just learn to live with this. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I agree with that. It just
it's crazy, man.
It's the world, man.
If they could have gotten away with it,
yeah.
What our leaders in my country would have wanted to do, and I think yours too, if they could have gotten away with it, they would have put unvaccinated people in camps like in Australia.
I mean, was it, you know what they were doing at the hotels here for a while?
Are you ready to unlock your full potential? I want to introduce you to the Fit, Healthy, and Happy podcast, a powerful resource to transform your life today. With expert interviews, practical tips, and inspiring stories, this podcast is your roadmap to lasting wellness. Here's what a listener has to say.
I used to struggle with my health, but this podcast changed everything. It's like having a personal trainer, nutritionist, and life coach totally for free.
With over 2,000 five-star reviews, we're a podcast you can trust. The Fit, Healthy, and Happy podcast, available now wherever you get your podcasts.
They were
For
doing
people that were traveling, right? If they traveled,
you would literally get off the plane and they would pretty much put you on a bus and get you right to a hotel, and you'd be quarantined in a hotel. They tried that for a while, and then people at the airport are like, I'm not going with you. And then they're like, how do we do? And they just had to let them go. And it would just, then it kind of just rolled under the carpet and people stopped talking about it.
Yep.
But for about a 3-week period, they were trying to escort people right from the airport right into hotels, and then making the people pay for the bill, pay for the hotel, pay for everything after they got home from traveling. And it was like, why can't I just go home and quarantine if that's the case? So it was, I think there was a lot of testing and trial and error, and it was just so much bullshit. I mean, in this 2 years, think how quickly the last 2 years have gone by.
Yeah, man. I mean, it's 5% of my life.
Yeah.
Like when you put it in perspective, like, or think about these kids that are like 12.
Yeah.
10% of their life has been, and the most recent formative years have been shaped by this. Yeah. And they know this. Yeah. They know it. I believe COVID is real, right? Like wherever it came from.
Yeah.
That's up for debate. We already know the United States government was paying for military research of gain of function of COVID-19. That's fact.
Okay.
So we know that we're involved in this. It's really probably not China. The United States probably really is at fault, I think. We probably did it ourselves, but that's whatever. We can debate that later. Somebody can debate that, whatever. It's real, but then you've got different politics and ideologies trying to capitalize on it and leverage that reality for its own gain or power. So, and I'm not beholden to any political party. I think they all suck. I think the whole thing is just poisonous, top to bottom anymore. not that it was ever great, but it is what it is.
It's
pretty cynical when it comes to politics.
It doesn't. I'm just on the same boat as you, man. And we were dealing with Trudeau. I mean, it's anytime. I mean, he's always on the hideout, right? Anytime there's a need for a leader, he's hiding out, right? There's no. I mean, I could go into that. I mean, since Trudeau's been in, small businesses have struggled way before COVID. I mean, the taxes and what he's done to small business in Canada has been destructive, and his view even prior to COVID on China and how. I mean, when you're talking about censorship and all, like he's a proponent. Like, he loves how China runs. He's a
Marxist,
and he's very open about it. There's tons of conversations. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. No, they're communists. They're Marxists.
Yeah.
That's what they want. That's their ideology, and they are more committed to the ideology than they are the actual representation of the people that they claim to represent. And the same thing. I mean, President Biden just yesterday said there's a new world order coming, and we need to be the leaders of it. I mean, it's not even, and 2 years ago, when people said, this is just, there's literally a book by whoever that dude is, the Martian guy from freaking the Global Economic Forum.
Okay.
COVID-19, the Great Reset.
Yes.
It's not a conspiracy theory. It's a freaking book. The game plan is in written form. I mean,
there's websites. There's tons of websites and forums on that, right? I mean, you look at I mean, they've been talking about, this is way before COVID. They've been talking about this a reset for the longest time, and this is like Trudeau's talked about. Like they've actually physically been talking about it for years.
Yeah, and what we need to be concerned about now is And side note, what a crazy conversation. I didn't anticipate about talking about any of this stuff that I was
Me neither.
We just ended up here, which is kind of cool. But think about now they're trying to explore turning the dollar digital.
Yeah.
Or what's that cryptocurrency going to be? Think about this.
More control.
We've got, think about the donors for the truck convoy.
Yeah.
Their funds just seized.
Yeah.
their
Funds
bank
seized.
accounts. Their bank accounts.
I don't know if you heard what happened too. Their funds seized, and then GoFundMe decided that what happened. I think it was up to 10 million or something like that. The truckers took out $1 million to pay for gas or whatever. They froze the other 9 million. The government froze it, and then the government says, do what you want with it. So GoFundMe decided to start giving it to other charities, and people are like, no, I want my money back. If I donated it for this reason, I want my money back. And it was like, it was so much push and shove before GoFundMe says, okay, I don't want to be in the public eye. And they started giving the money back to the original donors.
Yeah.
But I mean, just the fact that if I were to give it to a charity and then that charity decides to do whatever they want with my money, like, how do you even justify that? And how do you justify them freezing it when if I want to give you money, how can the government say no? How can they stop me from giving you money?
But here's the other thing that's freaking me out. And I say freaking me out loosely. I mean, like at the end of the day, I have a faith, and I'm not anxious about these things because if you spend a lot of time worrying about things that are beyond your control, I can influence things by speaking truth, like in a situation like this, or how I can work to provide for my own family or to be sufficient in the things that I can be for them and those that I can reach. But I'm under no delusion that I'm running for world office or something. The cryptocurrency thing is an interesting outlier because the only way to make a cryptocurrency valuable is to limit how much of any one cryptocurrency you can have. Are we naive enough to think that the people controlling things from behind the political wall don't know that?
Yeah.
Are they not buying up Bitcoin? Are they not controlling the value of cryptocurrency too at this point? How is that being avoided? I don't know enough about crypto to know what ways that we've hedged our bets on that, but what happens when they control the digital currency too? It's an interesting outlier, and
it's interesting
we are
that
looking at different times ahead.
If you think of technology, I mean, COVID probably sped up technology maybe 10, 12, 15 years. I mean, now every grandma's on Zoom and stuff. People that would never even touch technology have sped up. If you look at where's the possibility over the next 10 years or even 5 years when you look at it for the metaverse, cryptocurrency, like there's so much things, these NFT, like I don't even touch any things because I have no interest, but it feels like NFT, like somebody has a picture that you could go on Google and search, but now this picture is selling for millions of dollars, and you could still go find that on Google and put it on your phone, but it's still selling for millions of dollars. It's that world, and how it's like, I feel like a lot of people are jumping into it because they don't want to be the last one on the boat. So they're just constantly just growing this. And you get guys like Gary V that are just pushing all these NFTs and metaverse. And now you got Zuckerberg and all. Like, where's your mindset with that? Like, where are we going with this all?
I don't know, man. I'm a big fan of leveraging technology. It allows us to do so much that we may not otherwise have been able to do. But okay, let's go back to the currency. Are you a proponent for it or you're not? Like, are you an investor in that field? I have been an investor in Bitcoin, in Dogecoin, in Shiba Inu. I've messed around with that stuff.
Yeah.
I currently took all of my investments out last year. I took them out right at the beginning of this push of mandates. I took everything out, everything of Bitcoin, all my crypto. I took everything that I had in the stock market out. Everything's out.
Yeah.
I just didn't trust where things were going in terms of how our leadership is the direction that we're headed into this country.
Yeah.
And you look at this, you look at the markets historically, they're like 90% bullish.
Yeah. Yeah.
But there's always a snapback in the market. Now, we had a major snapback at the beginning of COVID, quick recovery, but we were also under different leadership at the time. And so we'll see what happens. I'm tentative about diving into any of the crypto markets, anything right now. And it could be a mistake. I don't know. I just don't know enough. Like it could be a mistake that I don't have that resource. And all of a sudden now, if I want to get Bitcoin, it's $180,000 a Bitcoin.
Yeah.
And I know people personally in my life that had thousands of Bitcoin when Bitcoin was like sub 200 and they still own them. They're multi-millionaires now in Bitcoin, and they have that leverage, and good for them. People were telling me in 2013, 2014, you need to get Bitcoin. And I'm like, what?
Yeah.
It's a cryptocurrency. And I'm like,
here. I had buddies.
Crypto, what? And they're like, it's a currency. I'm like, how?
Yeah. I've had tons of buddies in the past ask me, and obviously you've played around with them, but I've always avoided stocks. I've always avoided anything like that. I mean, I'm almost old school in the way where I have a few companies, but my main investment is just real estate. And I know you like that too, but I mean, to me, vacation, commercial real estate is where the money is. It's hard asset. I could go there. I could look at it. It's bringing me monthly income. That's what I enjoy, right? That's where I put a lot of my money.
I agree.
Sorry, let's talk about that. So are you into that as well?
I currently do not own any investment properties. Nope. I'm looking at one right now.
Okay.
That could be converted into an Airbnb, doing like a JV with somebody on some projects like that. There's some things that interest me there. Right now, my personal goal, I'm not too far off. I'm hopefully less than 18 months away from being completely debt free.
Okay.
Including my current personal mortgage. And that's just sort of like consuming me right now, is make as much money as possible, get the revenue as high as possible, dump as much of that into ownership as possible. And then next phase would be to start accelerating once that's freed up from my budget, right? I have no car. I mean, I have one car payment left out of the vehicles we own. So like that and a house, that's it. And when that's done, then I can take all that and I'll snowball that into other investments. But 100%, I want to be invested in real property or real businesses that I help start up, because that's really like part of my specialty is communication and marketing. That's what I'm really good at. And so if I can help be a communicator and a marketer in the sense of helping startups and other things, and I'm invested in real people and assets, I think that's the direction that I want to go. I feel very similar to you. Like, I mean, there's obviously one side of like, set it and forget it in the stock market and trust the overall,
the long term, the long play. The long term.
I guess there's one piece to that, dump some money in there. It's fine. But,
there's nothing like passive income. Nothing like passive income.
Yeah.
I've been an entrepreneur for 20. I've been an entrepreneur for 26 years. My main company is called Comore, where I ran for 16 years. I've had gyms, I've had other stuff, but Comore, where we manufacture and design boxing martial art equipment. We've been doing that for 16 years. We design, manufacture the equipment. We wholesale to gyms. We deal with about 1,800 gyms right across North America. So that's our kind of my cash cow, and that's allowed me to, for the last 10 years, I try to invest on one property every year. Yeah. And every time you invest in a property, you take the passive income of the rent plus your savings next year, and it starts snowballing. And before you know it, you're at 5, 6, like it just starts growing. Yeah. And the passive income, I mean, it's incredible from renting, especially a vacation rental. Like our properties, we have 4 of them at, it's a 4-season resort. So it's essentially 4 seasons you're making money, and you're running around 96, 97% occupancy. So it's just steady money. You can't go wrong with something like that, right?
Yep. I'm right there with you. And that's my goal. Not only my businesses, right? So like I have my Mike the Cop thing. I kind of run on 2 rails. I've got Mike the Cop, which is driven by content that's law enforcement and culture related. But behind that is now a growing podcast that I have, and other, events and merch or whatever else. It's all behind that. And then on the other rail is business, which for me primarily is, in the real estate space, is helping. Like when I left policing and transitioned into real estate, I was able to find good success in my own personal business, my personal production. And that's what led us to say, man, if I could teach other cops transitioning from law enforcement into this business space, part-time, full-time, whatever, to do what I've been able to do, that's how I scale. Because there's a limit to there's only so many hours in the day. I will max at my own personal production, how many clients I can personally deal with at any time. So how do you scale that? Well, I scale that by coaching other people to do what I've done, who have no interest in being the scale. They want to you've been an entrepreneur long enough to know that there's only 7% of us in the world.
Yeah.
Right. The rest of everybody else wants to make like their goal money and go home and watch Netflix, coach the little league, and be done with it. They don't care about the rest. You and I are built different. We're not happy with that.
Yeah, no, it's true.
We're driven by the need to continue to kind of make those new adventures and lead and create in that way. That's what fulfills us. And so that getting ready to start another business in the man space. Got lots going on, man. But yeah, real estate and investing in real estate, especially Airbnb type properties, is something that I'm definitely very, very interested in.
Yeah. Yeah. And there's so many, we'll end it with this, but there's so many different avenues to that too. I mean, everybody always focuses on Airbnb, but I mean, I'm sure it's in the US same, like we have booking, there's VO, there's so many different outlets to rent your properties. If you market it properly, you could be running at like full capacity at all times. And the short-term game is where you want to be. You want people in there 1-2 nights, flip, pay the cleaning fee and get out, and then just keep flip. So let's talk about Mike. Let's talk about, when did you get on the department? How many years were you on the department before you exited the department? Let's talk about you as a police officer.
Yeah, I started the police academy in the early summer of 2009.
How old are you?
I was like 33 then. Okay.
Well, you started the department later in life.
Yeah. I already had 4 kids and all that. Like my youngest would have been 7 or 8. What was that? 8 years old, 9 years. Yeah.
So what were you doing career-wise then prior to that?
A mix of entrepreneur stuff. I had a window washing company. I was on a professional blackjack team for a while. Like
seriously.
Yeah. I did weird stuff and
hustle.
Yeah. Always hustling,
which is being a natural entrepreneur, which is awesome.
Yeah. I had done some security work before. Always had in the back of my mind that being a cop would be something that would be cool to do. I had relatives and friends that were in that world. I always loved hearing their stories, felt like I could relate to that my personality would fit. Just one of those things that was like, I had my work and I had my family, and I wasn't going to just like throw it all away to go do that, especially for a job that doesn't pay very well. And I took my savings at the time and just decided like, I lost a couple of really big clients in the window washing world in the crash of 2008 to 2010. That time was just a really bad time for a lot of things. But residential window cleaning went out the window for a lot of people. So I was like, instead of pivoting in that space, I decided, well, now's a really good time to try this, and I did it and started 2009, and then went right to the road pretty much right after the academy. And I got laid off at one department, went to another, had a whole adventure. And finally in 2017, I started Mike the Cop in like February of 2016.
Were you still on the force when you started Mike the Cop?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So we had started a nonprofit, an organization called Humanizing the Badge in 2015. And then I had started making videos, and they started doing so well that I kind of created its own thing, so that it wasn't just me as the face of the organization. I wanted it to be more focused on the organization. So that's when Mike the Cop was born. And I had some opportunities pop up. A startup company asked me to come in and be the president of the company for a marketing company. And they were going to pay me like 35% more money than I made as a cop. And I could take a year leave off of my department. And in the state of Michigan, you can be away from being a cop for 2 years and keep your certification. So I felt like it was a perfect storm of, at the department that I was at, there was really nowhere for me to go for about 3 to 5 more years. I would have been stuck in patrol. Yeah. So I was like, well, now's the time. I'm going to make more money. I'm going to get a chance to see if I can do this. And I stayed as a part-time cop at a different departments. A lot of in the Metro Detroit area, actually, smaller places have part-time positions. So I went to another department and got a part-time gig. So it's kind of like a weekend warrior as a cop, and then spending the rest of my time running this new business and keeping the cop train moving and growing and getting my entrepreneurial feet back, and took it from there. And then I quit the part-time thing in July of 2020, shortly after they wanted me to start going around and enforcing COVID mandates. And I said no. And then my leadership took a knee with BLM, and I saw what was happening to other cops around the country. And I was just like, I was being a cop on the weekends because I wanted to be investing my skill set in a way that benefited the community in that space. Yeah. And my family had given up. I shouldn't say given up, but they had lived with me being in that job for all those years, and at this point, now that I had kind of started growing some businesses, I'm like, well, I'm one traffic stop away. I'm one call away from somebody civilly taking everything that I worked my ass off for, that is for my family, and taking it away from us because I'm playing cop on the weekend. And it no longer made any more practical sense to do that.
For the audience listening or viewing this, let's dive into that. I mean, because I'm gonna give you a little rundown of myself, 2 seconds quickly. Like, my dad always wanted me to be a police officer. I started being an entrepreneur at 19. Actually at 17, I started a security company at 17. Nice. 19, I started full time as an entrepreneur. I still went to college. We have college here, Humber College, taking law enforcement. I never graduated, missing 3 credits to graduate. And my 2 closest friends, my best man at my wedding, he's a sergeant up in the York region. And another really close friend of mine is a sergeant up in Peel in Mississauga area here. And I'm always with these guys. So my whole network of friends, a lot of them are police officers still till this day. So we have a lot of deep conversations. You hear a lot of them. They do not want to be on the road. They rather be behind a desk pushing paperwork all day than being on a road.
Yeah.
For people listening, so obviously I think I got what you were saying. Explain more into that, what your feelings are when you're going on the road and everybody's got a phone, everybody's got a camera, everybody's out to find something wrong with what you're doing. So dive into that a bit more.
Yeah. I mean, so there's reality, and then there's political perception.
Yeah.
So the reality is that most people are fine.
Yeah.
They don't have a problem with the police, and most police have no problems with people. Like, most cops are not racist. Most cops are not abusing their authority. Most people aren't out there looking to take advantage of the police. Most people aren't out there looking to harm the police. That's just the reality. Like, that's the truth out there. However, our political system and our criminal justice system is not rooted in the truth any longer. It is rooted in perception, and it is rooted in what is advantageous for political gain or for monetary gain when it comes to advertisers in the media. Yeah. That's what it's driven by. It's not driven by the truth. The media is not driven by the pursuit of the truth. That's maybe some media outlets somewhere independent that aren't mainstream, but yes, certainly. And then in Canada, you've got a state controlled television system. So, you definitely are in a worse spot than us, even when it comes to that, what they're going to cover and how they're going to cover it. But yeah, you can be driven. We've seen it happen here. We saw it happen most notably with going back to like 2014, I think it was August of 2014, the shooting of Michael Brown in Ferguson, Missouri, where literally from the lowest people at a street level all the way up to our politicians in Congress, the hands up, don't shoot narrative. It was completely made up. It never happened. It was entirely fabricated, and they ran with a lie, and they railroaded a human being in the process. It's insanity. And it happens over and over and over again, where people run with lies and then a cop gets railroaded. We just talked about this. I have a podcast called the Failure to Stop podcast. Myself and my co-host Eric Anzi, we break down popular cases and stuff like that, talk about law enforcement news. There's an officer in Louisville, Kentucky that just got railroaded, federally indicted in a shooting from June 1st of 2020, where they returned fire and someone was killed. And now she's federally indicted for a civil rights violation, not for shooting the guy, for shooting pepper balls into a crowd that they deemed not a threat. And her name's getting run through the mud. She's been fired from her job. She's getting railroaded. Same thing happened in Atlanta. Garrett Rolfe was an officer. Him and his partner ended up fighting a guy, Rayshard Brooks, in a Wendy's parking lot, who was drunk and passed out behind the wheel. And he grabbed their taser and tried to shoot one of them in the face, and he got shot. And he was fired within 24 hours. The news ran with this whole story. The news, of course, did not show the officers that had just used that force frantically trying to do CPR on the guy, do everything possible to save his life. They don't show that. They don't talk about that. He's fired within 24 hours. A corrupt DA prosecutes them. I mean, this poor officer had to go into like a witness protection program and leave his family because of death threats. And I mean, we're willing at the risk of perception to throw people under the bus. And so when I talk about my willingness or unwillingness to be on the job, it has nothing to do like, man, people have always fought the police. Cops and robbers in real life that's always going to happen. People are always going to rob. People are always going to steal. People are always going to rape people. That's going to happen.
Crime will always be there.
There's going to be crime, and there's going to be cops who want to fight crime. The problem now is that while the cop is addressing the crime, admin, politicians, reporters, they're stabbing them in the back while they're facing the criminal. And that is why you're seeing a mass exodus of cops from the job and a hiring crisis.
Yeah.
Because why am I going to go make the starting pay at the department that I was at is like $37,000 a year,
which you can't even support a family on.
Why the hell is someone going to say, oh, I see how they're treating cops?
Yeah.
In the not the citizens.
Yeah.
The media.
Yeah.
The city halls.
I would say it's very media driven, right? But I mean that there's always a push behind the media too, right?
Yeah, yeah. So it's like that's the self-perpetuating problem that they're going to have. And what's happening is a self-fulfilling prophecy, because the only people that are going to do a job like that are criminals. People who have no moral compass, that will take bribes as cops, that will deal drugs. You know, a Raleigh cop just got busted by the DEA selling cocaine on shift out of his patrol car. Like, why? Because the good cops are leaving.
Yeah.
You're only going to be left with people who have no moral compass, because who else is going to do this job for $37,000 a year?
That's the biggest issue. And if any of our audience has heard any of my other podcasts, and anytime we're talking about policing, I'm about funding police. I'm about putting money back into police. I mean, I've said this on numerous podcasts. I mean, officers should not start less than six figures. They should be starting at 100,000. I mean, with ease, if not more. And it would stop a lot of that temptation, because once they get on the field and they're making their 36 or 37, and that temptation is there, and they got to pay their bills, human nature, right?
Sure.
There's just so much going on with that. What will stop it? Like, where's your mindset with everybody pushing that defunding police and all that crap?
I mean, it's rooted in absolute in the best case scenario, that whole concept is rooted in ignorance. They don't know. They're people that are stupid, just parroting for whatever reason.
Yeah.
And in the worst case, it's nefarious. It's malicious and it's intentional. And I think at the highest levels, that's exactly what it is. It's evil. It's a malevolent ideology trying to reshape. The play that is being run from the federal level here in this country is to get more federal oversight, if they had their way, the only people that would have guns are the people that are in the Secret Service protecting politicians. All local police would have no ability to defend themselves or the people in their community. They would disarm us. And the only people that would be good enough for guns would be them. Then they can have them because they're important people. We already see that. We already see a whole anti-gun narrative, but they want to eliminate the whole play that is being run is reduce state rights, reduce individual rights in favor of safety and the community.
Yeah.
But really what that means is the people in power get to still live their lives. Well, the rest of us are different. I mean, I don't know what other than to say, like I've said it a couple of times in this podcast already, it's Marxism.
Yeah.
I mean, just read the Communist Manifesto, people. I mean, this is it's an exact representation of it. This is all it is. It's not new. It's the same shit that they did in the 1930s in Germany. So how did that end? Like it's
what will change it? I mean, what steps need to be put in place to start altering, I guess, media, but I mean, I guess it does have to start with media because media gets to the masses, right? But where do we start with that? Is this the first thing is higher pay? Will there ever be allocated money for higher pay?
That's not even the issue because there's still good-hearted people that would do the job for less pay because they love the job.
Yeah.
They do it for the right reasons. And I think just changing the pay isn't going to solve the problem. It's like the public school problem. Just throw more money at it. Well, we throw more money at it than ever, and we still have dumber kids than ever. That's not the problem. Isn't the money? Yeah. The financial part of it is a great discussion to have at the right time, but I think it's way down the line. I think what we need is we have to start hitting these people, politicians and the media, with the only language they speak: money. That's the only motivation. When we pay politicians 5 times more than the average median income is of the average American that they represent, we have a problem, right? You should not be able to get rich by being a politician. Yeah. We have to fix that first of all. That alone, when we talk about finances, if anything, defund politicians. Make the politicians have to have the median income from the district they represent. Watch how fast none of them will rerun.
Do you know Dan Holloway?
Yeah. Our podcast is on the Drink and Bose Network.
Oh, it is?
Yeah.
Oh, very cool. So I had him on. This is a huge conversation. I had Dan on my podcast. It's a huge conversation. I talked to Dan all the time.
Dan's a great. As
soon as you said that, don't defund politicians, I just thought about his T-shirt. So that was what I was about to say. Okay, that's awesome. I didn't know you were on his. Oh, that's great. Okay, that's very cool.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's a starting point. We have to hit that's the only language they speak.
Yeah.
They don't care that we're having this conversation. This conversation in some sense is harmless because it's not necessarily action. Now I would say that we have to attack from 2 fronts. Front number 1 is hit them where it belongs. I haven't turned on the news in months. I won't give them my money. I won't give them my viewership. I won't generate an ad view for them. I simply won't do it. I'm currently looking for as many practical ways to move my audience off of mainstream social media into another means that I can communicate with them and own that audience and give them my content off this. I want out of this because this is what they want. This is what gives them that power. The more people that leave that, the more alternatives we have and the more ways to hit them where it hurts, which is their pocketbook. That's all they care about. They would give up the power and control if there was no money in it.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree.
If they actually had to go,
agree.
if they had to go work for their money instead of sit there in those chambers and dick off, they wouldn't do it anymore because they can't get rich doing that. Yeah. They can't get rich on actually talking about policy and making decisions. Like they can't do that. So they would stop it. And then who would fill it? Well, then you would have to go back to the way it was designed to be, which is statesmanship.
Yeah.
You have a doctor that says, hey, for the next 2 years, I'm leaving my practice to go do my civic duty and represent our people in the community and our interests.
Yeah.
That's what it was. That's what it was meant to be. Unfortunately, we just didn't have those pieces in our Constitution to have term limits. God bless anybody that can get that passed, and eliminate lobbying. So there's no way to get rich as a politician. So that's one piece of it.
The lobbying aspect, I can never see that going away. That's that's stuck in there. I mean, that's
stuck.
Yeah,
it's terrible. And then on the other end of the spectrum, I think we have to think big, but we have to act small. So it's really hard to influence change at the highest levels, especially like when it comes to like DC or something.
Yeah.
Or Ottawa, or wherever, like very hard. But it's a lot easier in my local mayoral election. Out of the 70,000 people in the municipality that I live in, they might get 10,000 voters.
Yeah, if that in here is probably even less. I can
influence that. We can shape that. I can change. I can, in some sense, forget about DC. I'm not there. I can't. It's going to be very, very difficult for me.
So focus on the local.
Think big, act small. Think global, act local. I think that's the way. That's the fight that the so-called silent majority has to have. The silent majority needs to give two big middle fingers to big tech, big media, big politics, and say, "We're done with you. But you have to listen to us." No. Enough people say they can't take us. They can't stop us all. They're not. So enough people need to stop being more concerned about their comfort, get a little uncomfortable and say, no, absolutely not. Nope. Not going to do it. And then take action locally. If enough people own their own shit and just cleaned up their own lives, right? Like focused on being the best version of themselves that they could be, and influence the people that you have immediate reach around, then that is the only way forward. It's a grind, but I really don't see another way. There's no magic pill that's going to change things overnight. Like enough people say no to these guys and say yes to starting to take action on a local level.
Don't you find the herd mentality? It's just people just follow the crowd.
Yeah,
it's crazy, and I 1,000% everything agree, and I do believe in that change. But how many people are going to put themselves in a situation where, I mean, if you have a 9-to-5 job, or you have a corporate job, or you have a business that depends heavily on your customer base to support you,
yep,
many of those people are scared to open up their mouth.
Yep.
Like I literally, I put on a storyline. I copied, it's a Navy SEAL. I can't, Tim Kennedy. Tim Kennedy put up a post. This is weeks going by, and it showed Al Qaeda, a whole bunch of guys on their knees with Al Qaeda standing behind them, and then it showed a bunch of Canadians on their knees with the Mountie police behind them. Yeah, and I just reposted on my storyline, and I got thousands and thousands of people viewing it, and I got literally like 15 messages of people that I found I thought were close friends from Canada, and they're all like, "Why would you put that up? Why are you comparing it?" Like this ripping into me, and I just let it run. It was only 24 hours. I let it run, but I mean, it's just it's because a lot of people don't want to deal with that. They don't want the backlash of their peers, right? So how many people are going to stand up like you're doing and do that? That's the biggest issue. We don't have the local leaders to do this right now. And are they where are you going to get them from? Because like I said, a lot of people are scared to do it.
The more the merrier. Some of the good news is that, like, when we think about like the American Revolution, dude, it was a minority of people, and people are shocked when I throw this out there. It was 40% or less actually wanted independence from Britain.
Yeah,
that's it.
I don't know the numbers, but that is pretty low. Yeah,
it's a minority. Like, you would think, oh, if you got to the point of a revolution on that scale, that level, oh, that had to be 9 out of 10 people were ready to go to. No, man. And even out of the 40, not all of them wanted to fight. They like wanted it, but like most people, even then, they're like, can I just grow my crops and hang out with my family and, play whatever games that they played in the 17th century. You know what I'm saying? Like, just leave me alone. Like, most people still, I think, are in that vein. Most people, most personalities are go along to get along, right? Like, so it's never going to be a majority of people that do that, but the people that are that sort of like 20% of the population that is like, oh, hell no, we will fight. Yeah. They got to stand up and start taking action. They like, and I think that we're starting to see that. And that's why such a small group, even like those truckers, can make such a huge impact, because they know, like, if they awaken the sleeping giant of people in the United States, that the hustlers, they're making the money. That's just it, right? Where are the taxes coming from, bro? I mean, I don't know how it works in Canada. In the United States, like 5% of the country pays like 90% of the bills. Right, like 56% of people in this country don't pay a dime in taxes. Right, like
we're a little different here because you guys have quite a few states without taxes, right? I mean, in Nevada's, and I think Texas is pretty low in tax states, and Arkansas, I think. Us? There's it's pretty regulated right across.
Yeah, and we have a 15,000 page tax code that needs to be burned at the stake too. But it's at the end of the day, people who are hustling, who are working, when they get pissed and they're like, when they start saying, oh, hell no. Yeah. That's the pushback, because the politicians recognize if we lose them, we lose our money. Yeah. If they won't contribute, then we can't control anymore. We lose our position. And they want that position because they have a life of ease. They make shit tons of money by simply voting for the cause that gets them the most money. They don't want that to be disrupted. Yeah. And so we have to be able to disrupt that and threaten that. And if that's the tension we have to live in, it's the tension we have to live in to maintain as much freedom as we possibly can without a violent revolution.
I mean, you're obviously on track with what you're doing. And I mean, we can only hope that more people are going to listen to shows like this and listen to your podcast and open up their eyes. That's all it could be, is right now just bringing awareness to as many people as you possibly can, right? And exactly, you said, if one person starts bringing it into their inner circle of 6 to 10 friends or family members, you're hoping change could start that way, right? But it's a long haul game. This is a long haul game.
Yeah, it's a battle for sure.
When you're looking at media too, I mean, I was reading somewhere that because media is very driven by, I guess, sponsors, by commercials, by whatnot. Yep. But they're saying that I don't know if this is true or not, that CNN is going back to they got rebought again, CNN. They're going back to trying to produce proper news and all that. Did you ever hear that?
No, I
look
didn't.
into that. I was reading this article that they just got.
Views are up right now.
Oh, that's that. I mean,
it's the Ukraine.
Yeah. Oh, people are stuck. People are. Where's your mindset with that? Let's talk about that quickly.
2 corrupt governments screwing all their citizens over is what that is.
Interesting.
And it's the next thing that we're supposed to be enraged about. It's the next thing that allows people to virtue signal and all of a sudden become foreign policy experts and to think that they're getting objective information. Tell me when the last time they played a full Putin speech in our media, either Canada or the United States. Have they played one single full, honest, translated speech that he's given since this started? The answer is, I'll save you all the research, it's 0.
Even apparently the last one he did at the stadium the other day, halfway through his speech or part of his speech, they cut away from the speech.
Absolutely, they did. They're not going to give you a full one and a full translation because we want to say that it's Russian propaganda. It's Canadian propaganda. It's U.S. propaganda.
Yeah.
They give us in the media exactly what they want us to see or hear. We don't have the full thing. We don't know enough to have an opinion about the Ukraine and Russia. We just don't know enough, period. I don't have an opinion because I'm not stupid enough to say that I understand it all.
Yeah.
I do know that the Ukrainian government is notoriously corrupt, even its current one. And I do know that the Russian government is notoriously corrupt, just like our government is corrupt. And all the innocent people, I can have empathy by God, of course, empathy on these people that are in their homes and just trying to provide for their families in both countries who are getting screwed by war. Fought for who? For whose advantage? For who wins? What do they gain by these things?
But where's your mindset with the whole nuclear, threat? Do you think Putin has the balls to actually go that route just to continue this?
No, I hope not. What's there to gain in it? You know what I'm saying?
But at this point, what's there to lose for him? Is he going to pull? Is he? I've said this, and I don't know where our mindset is. You're looking at something like Putin. Does anybody even know what's truly happening or what's in his mind? Like, how do you? I'm just throwing this out there, and obviously I have no evidence on this. I'm just my own thoughts. But does anybody know that if he could be sick, he could be dying of cancer, he might be wanting to go out in history? Like, nobody knows what's going through his mind.
Or we can believe what he's saying, which is that he's trying to denazify the Ukraine and he's trying to eliminate the biolabs from the United States and their deadly pathogens that are all along the Silk Road through the Ukraine.
Yeah.
Nobody wants to. Everybody thinks it's a conspiracy theory, but what if he's telling the truth?
And there's tons of media out there that I was even looking into. Media outlets. Things from 3-4 years ago ripping into the Ukraine. How it was so controlled by, there's the amount of Nazi influence there and the amount of corruption there 3-4 years ago. They were openly talking about it. Then all of a sudden now no one's talking about it. Everybody's trying to protect them.
When our current president's son was getting millions of dollars a month from the Ukraine and their corrupt government, and it was a conversation with the Ukrainian president that was the focus of Russian propaganda before when it was Trump in office. These are not coincidental things. No wonder whose side we're going to take, because the Ukraine has been paying Joe Biden for years.
Yeah.
And so no wonder whose side we're going to take.
Yeah.
I don't claim to have any specific knowledge of either government. It's so far removed from me. And the fact that we see, and I have people freaked out on me when I even suggest that we don't even know what's going on. Oh, you this is just Russian propaganda. Like, bro, how could you, if I it's easy to comment that. Anybody sitting across the screen like this or in person, all I have to do is say, okay, give me 3 examples of Russian propaganda in your lifetime that you've established as Russian propaganda. Please go.
I can't.
They'd be like, I can't. But they want to declare everything that I'm saying as Russian propaganda
because it comes down to the media.
Social media gives people a confidence that is highly overrated.
Yeah, I agree with that.
That's nuts.
So where do you see this all? We talked about where you see your future going with this. How many episodes are you into your podcast?
Man, we started last June, but we're actually running 4 episodes a week and growing.
4 a week? How long are your episodes? Are they just you two talking? Do you have guests?
Yeah, we do it all. So we have our Friday show is an hour and a half to 2 hours. We break down cases from former cop perspectives. From police perspective, we kind of give you the ins and outs from beginning to end of a case.
Yeah.
And then backing up in the week, my co-host Eric Tansey does Last Call. It's all pop culture. And because a lot of cops, when they go out on the weekends with people, everybody wants to talk about cop stuff. And he's educating cops on pop culture on how to talk to them about normal people stuff. So he does that.
I love that.
We do something on Tuesday night. So we'll go live tonight. It's called Night Shift. We pick random topics and guests that we call it Night Shift because it's really common for cops to meet up on night shift and just bullshit about dumb topics when it's slow.
Yeah.
So tonight we have a cool guy coming on, the terrorist whisperer. He was actually arrested by Saddam Hussein when he was a teenager. And he was he's been a spy for the United States government in Iraq. So he's telling his story tonight, which is really cool.
Yeah.
On Mondays, I've been doing rants. It's just me on the mic, and I'm just Mike on the mic, and we're going to change it up and make that news related. So yeah, we're bringing on a couple of people for shows, and we're going to just keep growing, man. We want to be the number one law enforcement related podcast in the world.
What's the podcast? What's the name of the podcast?
Failure to Stop.
Failure to Stop. That's awesome. Oh, that's awesome, man. I mean, I started off, I'm an entrepreneur. I'm an author of some books and stuff like that. So I'm everywhere too. Right. But we were doing 2 times a week. Now we're down to just once a week for season 8 and season 9. Season 10, we're going to be back up to twice a week, but it's a lot of time. It's a lot of time, a lot of effort, but it's fun. I mean, you get to meet people, right? I mean, I would never connect with Mike the Cop, right?
I absolutely love it's my favorite. You know, I'm known in the Mike the Cop space for like my comedic sketches, short type stuff. Yeah. But this is where my joy comes from. Like I love the flexibility and the freedom and the enjoyment, a little bit of the unknown too. You never know what you might talk about or what might come out, and it might be funny, it might be insightful, whatever. It's like, it's cool. Yeah. And it's in that space. And I absolutely love it. So to be able to move any of my audience interested in like the podcasting thing, that's where, for policing, for business, all the stuff that I do, like I want to attach a podcast to it because it's just so enjoyable and fulfilling to do.
I love that. I got 2 more questions for you. One, I keep staring at that picture on to your right. What is that?
That's General Mantis. I can't move the camera. No. So General Mattis is a famous Marine general, and actually part of one of my very first ever adventures in podcasting was with a buddy of mine named Dave, who is going to be coming back to help us with Failure to Stop, actually in one form. But I had a buddy of mine do this painting.
Well, that's a painting.
It's
pretty awesome.
It's a praying mantis inside a general's uniform. So it's General Mantis instead of Mattis. And so t-shirts are coming soon.
I love it. I keep catching my eye. The whole every time you talk, I keep looking at it. I just want to know what it was. In a couple words, how would you want to be remembered, described by your loved ones, family members, friends, if something were to happen to you today? Or reminded or something? Just how do you want to be remembered?
It's a really good question. I have an answer. I just don't know how. I don't know the right way that it would be expressed by them. I would want them to see that I lived my life consistent with my purpose. So like the way that I express what I'm made to do is that my whole purpose in life is to communicate truth in a way that changes people's minds and lives. So a lot of people look at me, they'll ask my kids, well, what does your dad do for a living? And they don't know how to answer that because I have my hands in so many things.
Yeah, that's me.
Most people are defined by, oh, he's a real estate agent. Oh, he's a social media influencer. Oh, he owns a business coaching business. Like, oh, how do you, he's a podcaster. No, I only do one thing and do it well. I communicate truth in a way that influences people. Right.
Yeah.
So I would hope that they would be able to reflect on my life and see that as I matured, I continued to live more and more in line with that mission. And that I was a man who is bent on accomplishing, that mission.
Love it. How can our audience get a hold of you?
MikeTheCop.tv. If you want law enforcement stuff, or FailureToStop.com is the podcast, or look that up. And then if you, even in Canada, our real estate team is cross national. We're growing the largest real estate team of our mission is to help 10,000 veterans and other first responders supplement or replace their income through residential real estate. So we can teach you how to do that. 107project.com. And we're in Canada. So,
I was asking you what your shirt was about, but I didn't want to get there because I thought it was random. So that's what your shirt is.
Yeah. 107project.com. So they can go there, and it's a big pain in the ass to get your real estate license in Canada, but have fun. If you want to, we can teach you how. Once you get your license, we can teach you how to grow a business, but getting your license in Canada is like a big pain in the butt.
It's a long process. Long process.
But we have some doing it. Doing it.
Love it, buddy. This has been awesome, man. I appreciate you. I'm sure I'm going to have you back on. I'm going to enjoy seeing your growth and everything. And this is awesome, man. I appreciate it, buddy. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you.
That's a wrap for today. I want to thank our guest, Mike, for taking time out of his busy schedule to be a guest on the Jeff Lopes podcast. If you guys enjoy this conversation as much as I have, like all weeks, tell your friends, tell your family, spread the word. We're trying to build something special here. Leave a review. Myself, my team love spending time reading the reviews. Until next week, guys, keep moving forward.